A new executive order from President Biden aims to address a computer chip shortage. The order calls for a 100-day review of the supply chains of key products to identify weak points and potential solutions. Loren Thompson is a defense industry analyst at the Lexington Institute. Thanks for joining me, Loren. What can you tell us about the latest supply chain executive order?
Well, for starters, I can tell you it's very similar to the concerns that were expressed during the Trump administration. Even the terminology is similar. Basically, it is a two-tier executive order. It starts, as you said, by mandating 100-day reviews of 4 areas of particular urgency: pharmaceuticals, integrated circuits, high-capacity batteries, and strategic materials like rare earths. But then there's a second tier of year-long studies into broader sectors of the economy, like information technologies, energy, and transportation.
And what do you think this executive order's effect on the defense industrial base will be?
Well, in the near term, the impact will be minimal. Just to give you one example, one of their top priorities is addressing semiconductor manufacturing. Unfortunately, if we started tomorrow to build a new semiconductor fabrication plant in the United States, it probably wouldn't be done before the end of President Biden's first term. So the immediate impact is minimal. But over the longer term, what this shows is that there is bipartisan concern about our ability to actually meet future military and economic needs from domestic sources.
Is this going to be welcome news to defense contractors? Do they want to see more focus on this issue?
Some of them do. The shipbuilders have begun to notice real single points of failures, 3 to 7 levels down in their supply chains. They're concerned about not being able to get parts domestically at all. I think most of the other contractors are accustomed to dealing with allies. They're aware of the danger in the abstract, but they haven't encountered real supply problems yet.
What's the timing issue here? Why has this emerged now?
I don't think it has emerged now, Marjorie. It's something that has become a focus within the Democratic Party over the last 2 years. A year ago, Jake Sullivan and a co-author in Foreign Policy warned that we're going to need an industrial policy to support whatever our grand strategy is. But it has been a concern since the earliest days of the Trump administration. He did a series of studies, and frankly, the findings were pretty worrisome.
You hinted at the fact that this is a bipartisan issue and that the Trump administration did do work on this. Do you see the new executive order from the Biden administration as building on that, or is there any sort of change in approach there?
Well, to some degree, it's repetitive of what the Trump people did. The earlier efforts of the Trump administration were not very good. They got better as time went by. Their last report for the Industrial Base 2020 was actually quite good. But I think there'll be some repetition before they come to almost identical conclusions to where the Trump administration got to, which is that we have to reverse these industrial trends and reshore some of these capabilities. Otherwise, we will find ourselves in an area of great vulnerability 5 or 10 years down the road.
Could you elaborate on that a little more? You're talking about kind of the serious consequences. What does that mean exactly? What are the ramifications here?
Well, just to take a few examples, 75% of the world's semiconductors are made in Asia. There was a time when 1/3 of them were made in the United States, and in fact, global demand, 1/3 of it still comes from the United States, but only 12% of the semiconductors are now actually made in the United States. And when it comes to packaging them, barely 1% is done in the United States. Now, semiconductors are used in everything from smartphones to smart weapons. If you can't domestically source these things in a national emergency, then you can't make those items in the United States.
Obviously, it sounds like the Trump administration identified that there's a serious problem. We're seeing the Biden administration agree. What are the potential kind of solutions, you think? What recommendations or actions might come out of this?
This is going to require a major culture shift. We used to think that our economy was so powerful and innovative that it would take care of these problems, but clearly that's not happening. We've been deindustrializing for nearly half a century now, and for the most part, where we used to go to get these things in the United States has moved to Asia, to South Korea, to Taiwan, to China, to Japan. We're going to have to change our tax policy. We're going to have to change our approach to how we invest in these companies. And it may be that in the end, like Taiwan and like South Korea, the government is going to have to pay most of the cost of building some of these plants.
With just about 30 seconds to go, Loren, you mentioned that this is not going to be a quick fix. What do you think a realistic timeline is, if these actions were taken, to see some progress?
Well, I think it is progress that the Biden administration is echoing what the Trump administration said. But we're going to need a concerted, heavy level of expenditure and focus for at least the next 15 years.
Thanks very much, Loren.
Sure.